Good morning, this is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? I'm trying to adjust this light. I have kind of a halo effect. Anyway, I'm done with playing with it because it's Tag Thursday. I didn't have my act together for Tuesday, so I'm doing this tag. I'm finally doing a tag after many weeks of wanting to do a tag. And I'm doing the Booktube Community Joy and Gratitude tag. Let me see if I got that right. Oh, I didn't write the name down. I was tagged by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and I think the originator of it was Book Chat with Pat. I'm not familiar with her channel, but I'm going to link it below since she wrote this this tag. And I'm pretty sure it was the Booktube Community Joy and Gratitude tag. I think that's the name. I'll put the proper name when I title this. Anyway, so let's get started. The first one is joy. These are the prompts. And the quote is from Marcel Proust. Is that how you say it? Proust? Let's be grateful to the people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom. So the first prompt is name an author whose books bring you joy, or discuss a specific book that made you feel joyful. So I'm going to do both of those. So one author that brings me a lot of joy is Anthony Trollope. And I especially felt a lot of joy after completing the Chronicles of Barchester. This is the last book in the series. It's a chunk. I actually listened to it on audio, though, and I bought this after the fact when I decided I wanted to keep all the books. The real books of Trollope. I loved this so much. I thought it was the most brilliant tying up of the whole series, and it has its own storyline, and it brought me such joy that I swear for a week I walked around on a cloud. It was just such a wonderful, deeply joyful reading experience. So yeah, the last book, I mean, it's the whole series, and then I just thought it was a brilliant final book to the series. I also really enjoyed the Palliser series, not as much because Phineas annoyed me, but the last two books, The Prime Minister and The Duke's Children, were a great winding up of the Palliser series, and I just love the character of Plantagenet Palliser. He's just one of my favorite all-time characters. Besides Septimus Harding of The Warden. So anyway, so Trollope really brings me a lot of joy. And I'm reading a book right now. What did I do with it? Oh, yeah. I'm reading Marion Fay right now, and it's wonderful. I just love Trollope. But another book that brought me joy this year when I was on vacation during the summer, and this was a book I'd been meaning to read for so long. I mean, years and years and years. I finally got around to it. It's The Outermost House by Henry Beston. This is a memoir of a year that he spent living in like a little hut on Cape Cod Beach, and it's exquisite. The writing is beautiful. It's nature writing, and also talking about the people. He just talks about his experience for this 1 year. And I just deeply, deeply enjoyed reading this book. So that was another book this year that really brought me a lot of joy. Then prompt number 2, discuss something about Booktube that you find joyful. Well, there's lots and lots of things about Booktube that are joyful. Buddy Reads. I'm doing a Buddy Reads right now, and that's really fun. It really injects so much fun into reading a book. I enjoy the events like Victober and Shake-Tember and the Feb Regency, and this year I did June on the Range, which I really enjoy. I'm going to talk about that later. And then I also like that when you stumble across a new booktuber whose tastes you coincide with, or they suggest a book and they introduce you to a new author, or you find somebody like just recently, Kelly of Books I'm Not Reading. I don't know how recent this was, a couple months ago. She was reading the Prydain Chronicles by Lloyd Alexander. There's a kid's fantasy book. And I loved those as a kid, and then I loved reading them to my own kids, and it was just so nice to find somebody else reading those books. So that was really enjoyable. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I like about Booktube. And that bring me joy. Okay, the next topic is friendship, and the quote is from L.M. Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables. Kindred spirits are not so scarce as I used to think. It's splendid to find out there are so many of them in the world. And then prompt number 3 is discuss a book that focuses primarily on friendship. So I had a hard time thinking of books about adults or grown-ups and friendship. Mostly they're kids' books. So the ones that sprung to mind is I'm trying to work my way through Arthur Ransom's Swallows and Amazons series. I can't show you Swallows and Amazons because I lent it to my sister, but this is the second book in the series, Swallowdale. And this is a book that I just, there's 12 books, and I think I've read 8 or 9, I can't remember. And I just finished reading this one this summer. Maybe it was in September. But these are about 4 siblings, and of course they're friends, but they also make friends with wherever they go. They make friends with some characters, local characters, or they make friends with other kids. And so it's really, I mean, it's not just about friendship, because it's a lot is about their competency and their excitement about going on adventures and their imagination, but it always includes elements of friendship. So that's what sprung to mind. But I feel like I need to think about this prompt more. I for some reason that one, the one about friendship, kind of stymied me a little bit. Okay, the next topic is laughter. Wait, I gotta take a sip. Okay. There's nothing like deep breaths after laughing that hard. Nothing in the world like a sore stomach for the right reasons. And that's Stephen Chbosky, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I've never read that book. So discuss an author or a specific book that makes you laugh. So this one, I thought of lots of books. So first of all, right now I'm reading Nicholas Nickleby. And this is, it's got funny Dickens characters in it. But there's one scene in here that I was laughing the whole time. So Nicholas is destitute and he's looking for a job, and he goes to apply to be a secretary for a member of parliament. And it's just this sort of one-off scene, but Dickens is so wonderful. Nicholas gets swept up with a bunch of people that are going to visit this what do they call him, an MP, and they're his constituents. And they're there to complain about him. So Dickens skewers both the politician and his he's just a hot air, all the rhetoric, the empty rhetoric and the posturing and everything, and the ego. And then the constituents, though, are equally bad. They're just like, they're complaining about things that they shouldn't be complaining about. So just the whole thing was so, satirical and done, and so well done. Just this, in the middle of this book, it's not even really, it doesn't really pertain to the plot that much, but he just had this one chapter where it was just this very comedic take on politics. So I'm enjoying this book very much, and it's funny. Then I loved reading this trilogy, Gerard Durrell, the Corfu trilogy. Oh, that's my dog barking in the background. I wonder why. Anyway, he's a scream. Gerald Durrell. He talks about his childhood on the island of Corfu. They were just for a few years, I think. But anyway, very, very delightful. Lots of animal stories in it, but the people are really funny. Very, very funny story. Funny author. And then I do love Georgette Hare. These are two of my favorites. This one is Sylvester, or the Wicked Uncle. And this is a scream. This is kind of a take on Pride and Prejudice. But it's just funny. She has me laughing out loud. I just really enjoy her writing style. And this is another one, Pharaoh's Daughter. There are just certain scenes in here that crack me up every single time. So I really enjoy her. I think she's quite funny. And they're romances, they're Regency romances, but they have a lot of humor in them. And then This is also sort of comedic. The Complete Little World of Don Camillo by Giovanni Guareschi. Um, and these are a series of short stories about a mayor, a communist mayor, and the real protagonist is, I'm suddenly losing Don Camillo. Don Camillo is the priest of this little town in Italy after World War II. And it's both really, really funny and really, really tragic at the same time, because you can see how devastated the community's been by Mussolini and the war, World War II, and how much violence they've had to withstand. And you have these two opposing forces, Don Camillo, who talks to Jesus on the cross in the church, and the author gets away with it. It's very funny. And then his main rival, somebody he's known since childhood, the communist mayor. So who's more like a mafioso kind of guy. So really, really funny stories. I have 3 of the books. I don't know if that's all of the short stories. They're a collection of short stories. That all makes sense together. And then the last one for laughter, I read this a few years ago. I'd like to reread it, is Radical Prunings by Bonnie Thomas Abbott. I'd never heard of her. I just picked this up at a secondhand store. It's about a woman who's a garden columnist. And so it's told in the form of her columns. And like maybe some is it all her columns? Which she always begins, "Dear readers." Or are there other epistolatory elements in it? Anyway, it's a scream because you learn all about her life and people who irritate her, and it's just really funny. I howled through this book, and I remember I got it right before COVID, and I read it during in those first couple of months of COVID, and it really, I really appreciated the humor. I'd like to reread this again. So anyway, so that's laughter. So I couldn't stick to just one. Okay, community. We cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow man. That's Herman Melville. Discuss a book where the idea of community is important. So I don't have the book to hold up, and one day I'm going to learn how to put those little pictures up of books. Maybe for 2025, that will be a goal. But I read it for June on the Range, and it was English Creek by Ivan Doig, so Doig. And I had discovered him just after we had gone to Glacier National Park, because I wanted a book set in Montana, and I discovered his memoir, and I read his memoir. And then that made me want to participate in June on the Range so I could read another book by him. And so I read English Creek. English Creek, it took me a long time to read it. I had kind of a reading slump in June, but this was I had to read it slowly. I couldn't read it fast. I think he's more maybe literary fiction. This is a fictionalized, or it's definitely based on his childhood. But it's just one summer in the life of this boy. I can't remember his name, but I think he was 16. The summer he's 16 maybe. And they live in this little community out in the country in Montana, and English Creek. And it's told really, really well. But the book wasn't divided into chapters; it was divided into sections. So the first section was just about him and his father. He and his father going to his father was a what do you call it? He worked for the Forest Service, and so he had to travel the land. He had this huge territory that he had to keep tabs on, and so he and his son go riding. This takes place in I think the late 40s, early 50s, and so that was the first. So he's learning about something happens where he separates from his father, and he's learning about the complexities of the relationships in the area. With the different neighbors, with the different people in the community. And he's, and because he's just 16, he's just sort of starting to realize what's going on among the adults. So that was really interesting. And then, but the middle section of the book was all about the 4th of July. So it starts the moment he wakes up on the 4th of July to when he finally goes to bed. And it just talked about the community and how they celebrated the 4th of July, because the community had been really devastated by both the Depression. So there were a lot of people that had to leave because of the Depression, because their farms failed, their ranches failed. And then World War II came, and a lot of people had, deaths. So they sent away soldiers who died. And so the community is still kind of reeling from that. And on the 4th of July, his mother, who's been there a while and has real roots in the community, is asked to give a speech. That's really moving. And then the way they celebrate the 4th of July, I really liked it so much. They had this big community picnic in the town, and then they had a rodeo. And you knew everybody was competing. You knew the horses, you knew the different people who were coming in to compete in the rodeo. And then they had a dance at the end. And he's just learning all about this community. It was really about community. It was a really good book. So I highly recommend Ivan Doig as an author. And then let's see, the next prompt is discuss a communal reading experience that you have had. And well, first of all, this year I read the Aeneid with my son. That was really fun. That was the first time I've done something like that. So that was really neat. Just participating in Booktober, and chatting with people about books. I guess the buddy read that I remember the most is reading The Little Minister by J.M. Barrie with Janelle of Too Fond of Books. That was like a real highlight. So yeah, there's so much about it's buddy reads. For a little while, Mark at Book Time with Elvis had a comedy boxer group where we were reading funny books and chatting about them, and that was fun. And I'm in a little book club with Sean D. Standfast called the Faded Pages Book Club. Now, the community has shrunk, but still, it's interesting to read books with other people because they can have very different takes on the same book. Like you can really love a book and other people really don't like it, and vice versa. And it's interesting to hear people's perspectives, different people's perspectives on the book. So yeah, communal, that, I guess it ties in with what I find joyful about Booktube is that communal reading experience. And then let's see, the next one is gratitude. I can no other answer make but thanks and thanks. William Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. Prompt number 7, name a book in which a character demonstrates real gratitude, or name a book that left you feeling a sense of gratitude. So I was thinking, these are pretty classic books. What did I do with them? What did I just do with the books? Hold on a second. Oh, my papers are on top of them. Yeah, so I was thinking about Pride and Prejudice, because I think one of the things that makes Lizzie fall in love with Mr. Darcy is being indebted to him, being so grateful to him for what he did for her and for her family. When she had this conception that he was so full of pride, he would never stoop to do anything like that generous, and just so taken aback by his the magnitude of his generosity. And I think that kind of clinches the deal. Like, she's changing her mind about him because of his letter. Then she sees Pemberley, and she's like really impressed by that. Like, wow, this guy actually looked at me, with his grand estate and everything. And then that he noticed her again, when she thought that he must hate her. And then that he goes and he does this incredibly generous thing. But also Darcy is grateful to her, I think, because of his position in society, people weren't honest with him or didn't care enough about him to tell him the truth. And the fact that she was so honest with him and she took him down a peg, and he knew, that he needed to be taken down a peg, that he had the courage to look at himself because he respected her opinion. And he actually was grateful to her for teaching him that lesson. So, I mean, he has just a great spirit. And so I think it was gratitude for both of them. They really appreciated what each had done for the other. So, and then I think that same kind of thing is played out in North and South, because you think about, and I don't want to give out I don't want to spoil the plot or anything, but there's a situation where the John Thornton, the male interest, and Margaret Hale, where John Thornton does something for Margaret Hale that she knows must hurt him, must have been very difficult for him, and it's extremely generous. And he protects her in a way that she doesn't feel she deserves, and it's a misunderstanding. She actually didn't do anything that she needed protecting from, but that's not how the rest of the people saw it. But he also, I think, he had been attracted to her. She's intelligent, she's attractive. She was different from the other women that he knew of. And he was finally at a place in his career where he could maybe think about women. Because his whole life had been so hardscrabble and just trying to overcome this terrible thing that happened and trying to, grow his company or whatever. And it was very, very tough, very, very rough, tough. You had to be hard. He was trying to also have integrity, though, in a business situation, an atmosphere was really hard to have integrity. And he was the protector, right? He took care of his mother. He took care of his sister. He was the one in charge. He was the one that had the responsibility. And then Margaret Hale comes along and she does this thing where she's trying to protect him, not because of who he was, because she didn't really like him, but just because she saw he needed protection. And she tried to do what she could. And he saw that. And I think, who protected him? Nobody protected him. Like, to have somebody like that come and think about you, think about protecting you. So I think that gratitude tied up with falling in love with someone because you so appreciate how they think, how generous they are. I just think that these reflect a real nuanced idea of gratitude, a complex emotion that is tied into a lot of other things. So yeah, so those would be my 2 for gratitude. Okay, and then finally, tag others to spread a sense of joy and gratitude. So I think this is a pretty old tag, and I have not been keeping tabs on who's done it and who hasn't because I'm so out of the loop. So I'm going to tag, the name is going to escape me suddenly. Hold on. Cozy Cottage Chapters. It's Madeline. And I really like her channel. So I will put it below. And then there's a new one that I just started watching. She only has a couple of videos out, and it's called Beyond the Required Reading. I think that's the name of the title. So anyway, I'm going to tag those two booktubers, and hopefully they'll see it and they can participate in this tag. All right, well, thank you very much. Sorry I got long-winded. I had a lot of books to think about. All right, take care, everyone. Happy reading. Talk to you later.